Museveni regime fails to account for abducted and missing Ugandans. The statement released by Museveni's government regarding the abducted and missing Ugandans under their custody is not surprising since no one expected them to officially admit to killing political opponents. Contents of that statement not only reflect a disgraceful evasion of responsibility but also a disregard for human rights and justice. From the very outset, it was evident to us that these individuals were victims of the regime's actions. However, instead of acknowledging their own atrocities, the regime has resorted to baseless allegations, suggesting that these individuals likely fled the country. Such claims made without any concrete evidence are not only insulting but also undermine the principles of justice and human rights. We would like to emphasize that if the missing individuals were indeed abroad, our NUP diaspora chapters, which are established across all continents and regions, would have been aware of their whereabouts. The fact remains that these individuals were forcibly abducted, with multiple witnesses attesting to the occurrence of these abductions. It is truly perplexing to fathom how these victims, who were confined within safe houses, could have miraculously escaped and journeyed to the diaspora. The opposition must reject the acceptance of this report in its current form. It not only undermines the integrity of the parliamentary institution that called for this accountability, but also represents a grave insult to the principles of justice and the intelligence of the Ugandan people. The Museveni regime bears direct responsibility for the abduction and likely the deaths of these individuals, and it is imperative that they be held fully accountable for their actions. In certain cases, the lack of cooperation from the next of kin can be attributed to fear stemming from their encounters with the regime, which had unlawfully abducted their family members. The regime employed unconventional and even intimidating approaches, including conducting late-night home visits, which understandably instilled apprehension among the affected families. However, it is crucial to emphasize that this should not serve as a justification to diminish the seriousness of the situation, as the regime possesses the knowledge of those responsible for the abduction of civilians. This unfortunate turn of events serves as a reminder that there is no discernible difference between the brutality of previous regimes, including that of Idi Amin, and the current regime of General Museveni. The claim in that he fought to liberate Ugandans has long been debunked, especially after clinging to power for 37 years. We urge the Ugandan people, the international community, human rights organizations, and all advocates of justice to join us in calling for a thorough and impartial investigation into the abduction and disappearance of these Ugandans. The truth must be unveiled, and those responsible must be held accountable for their actions. Daniel Kawuma, NUP Diaspora Team Leader. The abducted civilians left for the diaspora without travel documents. In yet another perplexing attempt to explain the inability to locate victims of forced disappearances by the Museveni government, it was asserted by the regime on the floor of parliament that these individuals are presumed to have fled to foreign countries. Curiously, they managed to leave behind all their travel documents on the way out. #UG Parliament Boycott. Government blames NUP for sabotaging missing persons. Probe Chimp reports by Nixon Maberry, November 30, 2023 at 12:52 a.m. Government has blamed the National Unity Platform, NUP, for sabotaging the probe on alleged missing persons by preventing their relatives from speaking to authorities. The State Minister for Internal Affairs David Muhoozi told Parliament on Wednesday, November 29, 2023, while presenting the long-awaited report on missing persons, that the next of kins of the alleged missing persons were uncooperative because they had been stopped by NUP from speaking to the authorities. The next of kin of the reported missing persons did not cooperate with the police investigators. The police team had to hold out as members of an NGO in order to interview these people. For example, Nabakoza Florence, the next of kin of Wangolo Dennis alias Shafiq, declined to meet the investigators, stating that she got instructions from NUP not to meet any person, he said. Muhoozi also claimed that most of the alleged disappearances were never reported to the police, making it not possible for the government to investigate the cases, nor pronounce them as missing persons. Most of the alleged disappearances were never reported to the police. The alleged disappearance of Didamulira John, Kuria Peter, Wangolo Dennis, Sazazi Isama, Mubiru Hassan, Baguma Joseph alias Samuju Joseph and Zimula Dennis alias Boye, were all never reported to the police, he said. He added that, it is the law and the official practice, that for someone to be declared a missing persons report must be filed. This can only be with the police, which wasn't done, and which is still being resisted by the people approached. The State Minister for Internal Affairs said, whereas NUP claims that most of the abductions were done in broad daylight, none of the alleged witnesses mentioned the registration number plates of the vehicles involved. The leader of opposition Matthias Mpuga, who is also a member of NUP, told the Minister of State for Internal Affairs to feel for others, adding that the power of the people, and the capacity to sustain it, lies in Parliament. If you feel pain, you are alive. If you feel other people's pain, you are a human being. Let each of us place ourselves in any of those spaces, whether we are both or one of those. The power of the people is resident in this Parliament, and the power to sustain it is domiciled in this Parliament. And therefore, nobody can repurpose the power of Parliament to sustain, maintain and assure the power of the people, he said. Mpuga requested to conclusively respond to Muhuzi's report of missing persons during the plenary next week on Tuesday. The Post-Goat blames NUP for sabotaging missing persons. Probe first appeared on Chimp Reports. Share. Visit website